Hello guys, and welcome to my video channel. This is going to be a channel mostly about gaming, which is something that's pretty important to me in my life, but also about some other stuff as well. I want to start off by making an apology. This is the first video I've done, so if it's a bit rambly, the sound quality's bad, or I make a lot of kind of noises that I'm making right now, apologies, this is my first video. I'm still working on it. I decided that I wanted to start my videos by saying what my biases are on a particular topic, so that people know what they are before they go in. I think it's pretty difficult to do anything, especially something like this, which is opinion, kind of an area for me to express my opinions without having some kind of bias. Even if you're just reporting the daily news or whatever, you're going to inject your bias into those events. So my biases are largely against the free-to-play or pay-to-win business model. That's a big thing in gaming at the moment. I think it's a bit scummy. I don't really trust it. I probably should do something on my channel, an opinion video about this at some later time, to explain why exactly I don't like it. But you should know going into this that I think if you're paying for advantages in a game, that's something that I think is bad for the game. Okay, so the issue I want to talk about is the level 90, what word should I use for it? Accelerated extra level 90s that you were going to be getting in the new expansion, Warlords of Draenor. So I'm reading directly from the Warlords of Draenor page on the Blizzard website, and we're reading the taglines of the expansion here, and it says, Ages of War wait. Warlords of Draenor features new content, build and upgrade your garrison, we'll get onto that later, and a level 90 character upgrade. Play immediately. So some clarification from Blizzard has told us how exactly this is going to work. Everybody who buys the Warlords of Draenor expansion can pick any character and instantly advance them to level 90, exactly the same way as the Recruiter Friend level granter works, as I understand it. You just make a guy, you select them and advance them to 90. This is a complete change in how the game works at the moment, where previously you were expected to do the journey of WoW, which was to log in at your first character, learn about Azeroth and who you are, what race you are, what your story is as a character, and then you were supposed to find out what Azeroth is and what the war is between the Horde and Alliance, what the major events of Azeroth are, where your capital cities are. Really immerse yourself into the core of WoW, which is Kalimdor and Eastern Kingdoms areas of classic WoW. What is happening now is you'll be able to skip all of that, plus all of the content of every expansion for the current one. So you could create a character and, just goes directly into this Warlords of Draenor expansion, which is just a huge reference to old WoW and events that have already happened. And it only makes sense if you're a returning player to WoW, which I think is what they're trying to do. They're looking at people who left and thinking, well, why did they leave? How can we entice them back? And it seems that the way that they've decided to do that is to grant them these free level 90s that lets them skip what they see as outdated or unneeded content, old leveling that's not really needed anymore. So you get your free level 90, and you can, if you already know how to play the game, if you played previously, you can just get going. If you've played in the Burning Crusade, you know the story of the Burning Crusade, you know what the area is, who the villains are, and you know about old Azeroth and what's going on there, and you'll be able to pick it up pretty easily. I'm personally all for that. I think that if they limited the free level 90 upgrade to people who had reached the level cap when it was either level 60 or level 70 or whatever, then fine. I don't think that's a huge problem, because we've got people coming back to the game who are experienced in the game, who know what's going on in WoW, who know what the story is of WoW, and that can't be bad. That can't be bad to get back into the game players who have already played previously. The problem is that WoW is a game with just a massive number of turnover in terms of the players that are playing at any one time. Only a handful of people that I play with have been playing since Classic WoW. Probably slightly more who have played since the Burning Crusade, slightly more since Wrath of the Lich King, and so on. So, as people leave, more people join, and if you join in the Warlords of Draenor expansion or midway through the expansion, you're just going to be dropped into this world where you have no idea what's going on. There's no meaningful story progression for you. You're just in a place, and it'll be written as if the people writing the quest and explaining what you need to do expect you to already know where you are and who you are. You don't know who your character is. You don't know what his race represents. You don't necessarily know much about the difference between Horde and Alliance. You won't know what your goals are in the game or what you have to do. I think a strong narrative, well, maybe not direct narrative, but I think if you are in a place, that place should have a character, a meaningful character that you can experience. You feel like you're really there in WoW. And the important part about that is knowing who you are and what's expected of you, and having clear goals for what you need to do, what the threats are to your character, and where you need to go. What to do and where you are. And I think that's something that is in danger of being lost for a new player. In fact, I think it just will be. I think there's no way that you can pick up the storyline starting from Warlords of Draenor. This is a big problem, I think, especially in regards to how the storyline of Warlords of Draenor is set up, with this whole time travel narrative. I mean, I'm not convinced with this in general. I think it's pretty convoluted, just the way they've explained it. I don't even completely understand it, and I've been playing since Classic. I know what they're trying to go for, but I don't understand the narrative progression that's going on here. So, if you're a new player and you're dropped into the game, you advance your first character you make it at level 1, and the first thing you do is right click on it and advance it to level 90. Now the storyline, according to you, is that you're in the future, and something that's happened in the past in a previous expansion, so something that happened in the past relative to where your character is, now it has to be experienced in the future relative to where your character is, but it's actually in the past relative to where that previous expansion is. So it happens before the events that happened in the past that you didn't experience. So that's already, I mean, that was a mess trying to just explain that on camera, on my microphone. How are you supposed to clearly get across the concept of the expansion to somebody? And on top of this, they don't even know. I'm looking at 2 pictures of Draenei here. How are you even supposed to know who these people are? Are they good or bad? Are they on your side or not? And if you're Horde, you might not know that those are not your people. And if you're Alliance, you might not necessarily know, because they're sort of a monsterish kind of looking race. They've got their horns and squid faces and shit going on. And I don't know who they are. I don't know if they're on my team. How am I supposed to know if I should care about their fate or what the relevance is of saving them? So I think that's going to be a problem for players coming into WoW. They're just going to be dropped into this world, and they won't know, as I said before, they won't know who they are, who their character is, what's the narrative, what do I need to do. It's messy. It's messy for the new player. Okay, so it turned out that I had more to say about that than I expected. I think that's just because I want my friends, people that I meet, to be able to experience WoW, to explain why it's good and why I think they should play, and for them to have a good experience and have the same introduction to it that I did. So I'm worried about the new player and what their experience with WoW is, because I want it to be as good as mine. But what I mostly wanted to talk about, or what really got me to what I feel kind of forced me to start making these opinion videos, this channel, is really this issue, this pay to win issue that's starting to come up now. So let's get on to the key of the matter here. Something that Blizzard said is that every expansion you get, you're going to be able to get a free level 90, and you can have multiple expansions and multiple accounts on one overall Blizzard account. So what that essentially means is that people were going to buy the expansion multiple times over just to get the free level 90s, and I guess they were deciding what to do with that. You know, should they limit the number of level 90s on an overall account, or you know, should they just allow people to do that? And this is what they've come up with. This is the news as of today. So I'm looking at the Warlords of Draenor scouting report. The date is today, 17th of January 2014, and down at the bottom here there's a subheading, bolster the ranks. I'll just read this straight out. We've also heard feedback from players that they'd be interested in boosting multiple characters to 90, including alts they play with friends and other factions and realms. We've been evaluating ways to make that possible without having players go through roundabout methods, such as purchasing multiple boxes and performing multiple character transfers. And in the near future we'll be testing out a feature that gives you the option to purchase a character upgrade directly. We'll have more information to share later, including details on character upgrade plans for Asian regions where players don't buy expansion boxes. Who knows how that's going to work there. But you'll start seeing pieces of the process soon on the PTR. So this is the big issue here with WoW. Some background to this is that before this expansion was announced, was really launched, Blizzard started really playing around with this idea of buying things in the game. So we already had the purchasable mounts, not just the stuff that came with the expansion bonus stuff, which I don't see a problem with that, but to actually buy virtual equipment in the game, you know, it seems like it's a step. It's one tiny baby step. It's not pay to win at all at that point. It's just you're spending real life money to get to look good in the game, which, you know, I've really just looked past it. I've just thought, well, it doesn't affect me. It is a bit dodgy, but you know, it's not going to affect the game in any major way, I don't think. So what they've done is they've just taken these tiny little baby steps and to releasing a few items, where the first item was a charity item, a Pandaren monk, I think, pet that you could buy that was a charity item. So the idea was that half the proceeds go to Blizzard and half go to charity. This was like the sweet introduction to the deal. That was the first time they'd introduced anything that you could buy into the game that you couldn't just get through in-game means. The next thing that they started to do was introduce these mounts that you could buy. Then the next huge step that I think most people just ignored or didn't realise that it happened is that pets that you could buy would now be saleable inside the game. So they didn't just buy to your account, you couldn't just use them, but you could actually put them on the auction house and make gold out of them. So that gives you an in-game advantage there. If you spend money, you can convert it directly to gold. But again, this is much like gold selling or whatever that goes on in the game all the time. So it's something that I never agreed with, but we'll just look past it for now. Maybe I'll come back to it later. But what you're seeing is this sort of gradual progression where they're saying, okay, this only gives you a cosmetic benefit, it doesn't benefit you in any other way. And then they're saying, okay, this gives you an economic benefit, but it doesn't benefit you. You know, you still have to play through the game to advance, and even if you can use that gold to buy some gear from the auction house, the best gear is still going to come from raids, and you still have to level up to level 90 or whatever, and, you know, achieve that for yourself. You still have to play the game just like everyone else. But now what they're saying is, you can pay us and skip all that content. And really what it is it takes time to work up to the end game, which is the main area of the game. That's where Blizzard spends all their time and effort, really, or probably the majority of it. and that's where people want to be. So they're saying, they're incentivizing you to go to endgame by saying, here it is, this is what the expansion's about, the big bosses are here, don't you want to play this? And then they're saying, okay, you can play all this other stuff, or you can do exactly what we're suggesting that you do and what we're advertising that you can do, and get directly to endgame. Just pay us £20. This is like the first thing that I've thought was really directly pay to win. There's no way to get around the fact that if you want to be more powerful in the game, you can just buy it now. You can just buy the money and it gives you a significant advantage. I think that's a problem. I think that's a paradigm shift for the game. We're looking at a future in WoW where progression can be bought. Even right now, that it's only leveling progression, but this is just the start. I think the next thing that will happen, since I'm uploading this video, I'm going to make a prediction and say that the current coin system in the game that allows you to get loot by having extra random rolls and bosses, I think that's going to be monetized. I think you're going to be able to buy coins to get extra chances at loot, and that is literally, that will be mandatory for people to do if you're in a raiding guild. So there's a social incentive to buy these coins and to get more gear. It helps your raid, and you don't want to get left behind if everyone else is doing it. So I think that's the next step, and this is the first step towards that. You don't want to get left behind because your friends are all at level 90, so you don't want to play through that content, even though there's good stuff there. You just want to get to where your friends are. So I've sort of splurged out my thoughts there on what I think about that. And something that I'm aware of, as I said earlier in this video, I have a bias against paying to advance in things for my own reasons. I guess I'll go into it at some other point, but I'm aware that that's not the only opinion out there. I'm having a look at the official WoW Europe forums now, and there's a topic that's called Directly Buyable Level 90s, and the topic started 14 hours ago, just talking about this very thing that I'm talking about now, and it's already hit 15 pages. I think there's about 20 responses per page, so that's 150, 300 responses in the last 14 hours. And this was posted at night, I think. Yeah, 3:31 GMT, so in the middle of the night, and it's now it's almost 6 o'clock, so most people haven't come back from work yet, and this topic has already hit 15 pages. So surprisingly, reading through it, there are a lot of people who really support this. I mean, I can see the opinions of people who just want to have all the characters at the level cap and just don't care how. They just think, well, if it's 20 quid, I just want all the characters up there so I have the option to play whichever character I feel like. I understand that from a convenience point of view. I think that's not a bad opinion to have. It's just that, have some consideration for people who don't have the disposable cash. The great thing about WoW is that it's a good leveler between people. It's fair. It's fair towards all people in all economic brackets. You log into the game, you pay your 15. God, how much is the subscription? I think it's £9, something like that. God, I can't even remember. But you pay your £9 a month or whatever it is, and you get access to WoW. You can be in WoW, but that's it. The game doesn't give you anything else. You have to make what you can of that. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're a rich kid, the child of a banker who earns like £1 million a year or whatever, or you're a kid that lives in the suburb, you're on welfare and you're playing on your shitty potato computer, you have the same advantages and disadvantages. All you need to do is learn the game and put in the time, admittedly. to be good, and I think that's really laudable. It also means that you can really play with people from anywhere, and from all walks of life. You can really play with people who are having, economic problems in their lives, to, people from different countries who just want to play for fun, or just have some spare time and just want to get on. And there's no financial barrier for them to do that, and they advance in their own time. But I think this really changes that paradigm. You pay to get into WoW, and then if you want to keep up with other people, you pay for advantages in the game. I mean, is that fair? I mean, if everybody doesn't have the money to do that, doesn't have the disposable income, or doesn't think that it's worth the money, is that gonna stop? Is that gonna make people feel like they're disadvantaged in the game? That could cause Blizzard to lose subs if people are looking at the game and thinking, well, this is kind of a scam. I'm paying to go into the game, but I also have to pay to advance, and I have to, and on top of that, I also have to buy the game. So I buy the game, and then I pay. Before saying this, I'm just going to look it up. Okay, so the numbers I'm looking at here for the UK are the initial World of Warcraft digital download, which now includes the entire original game all the way up to Cataclysm. So all of those expansions costs £9.99, or 10 quid, and that includes 30 days of free game time, a month of game time. So that's the first thing you need to buy if you're a new player. Then you need to buy assuming that the pricing structure stays the same, which we don't know, but I can only guess at this point. So we'll use the current numbers. So to buy the Mr. Pandaria expansion, you then need to pay £17.99 or £18, and then to buy the new Warlords of Draenor expansion, it's either going to be in the UK £25 or £30, depending based on what their previous expansion cost. So we'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say £25. So you've already spent 25, 35, 40, 50, £53 at this point, and that buys you a game and 1 month of game time. The thing here is, okay, you get your free level 90. If you use that level 90, you've spent 28 quid worth of your money on games, on stuff that you're never going to see. You just immediately skip it. Does that really represent value for money for people, where they're making you pay for something that you're just going to skip through? It's not relevant anymore. That's also a problem when you look at this paid level 90. So we don't know how much that's going to cost, but let's say, I think it's going to cost at least £25 to do, at least. So if we factor that in, you're then spending £25 in order to not play £28 worth of stuff that you bought previously. I mean, that's absurd. It's almost comical, really, to make you buy something and then make you spend money so that you don't have to use what you bought. It's a joke. Apart from the fact that it's not fair financially, it's just. How does that represent value for money for me to get something and then skip it, then not use it? I mean, I'm not gonna buy the entirety of, if I wanted to watch just Star Wars Episode 4 to 6. I didn't want to be arsed with the first ones. Imagine them saying, at Lucasfilm, okay, everybody has to buy episodes 1 to 6. There's no way to buy them individually or the two trilogies separately, but you have to watch the first 3 in order to watch the last 3. But if you want to skip that, you can pay us. I mean, that's just ludicrous. And I think that's a reasonable analogy. It's not exactly perfect, but I mean, if it just wouldn't work for any other industry except the gaming industry. And then on top of that, this initial £53 investment. On top of this initial £53 investment, that lets you play this game for a month. Okay, and then it's £9 a month after that. Since classic WoW, I mean, I've been playing WoW for 9 years. The total amount I paid has been a lot. I don't know how much exactly, but probably over £500. You know, all the expansions plus every month's worth. Yeah, even though I've taken breaks, it's going to come to over £500. You know, and that's not. And also, there's other things that should be free, such as character migrations and name changes and stuff. Those should be free, but on a cooldown. I just think it's pretty absurd for them to charge for that. So, yeah, from an economic point of view, it's just a rip-off. So it seems that the counter-argument to this, you know, buying of advantages, is really just as simple as that is capitalism for you. That's how it works. Is it really a problem if other people buy success? How is that different from just spending time on it? If you have if you have surplus money but not surplus time, and somebody else has surplus time for whatever reason and no money, isn't that the same thing? Which, you know, apart from anything else, it doesn't really take into account the fact that your economic situation is not based purely on your own effort. It's social class is a thing, and you get stuck in your wage bracket normally. You don't. It's not that common to go up or down compared to where your parents were. So your free time is going to largely be dictated by your family situation. Are you in school? What's your job like? What are your obligations outside of work? That sort of thing. And also, how important do you think WoW is? Do you think, can you dedicate some time in your life to play it? Or would you rather just slob around, do whatever? Or do you have some more important hobbies that aren't related to video games? I guess that's pretty important. I think what I'm trying to say is that putting aside time, your spare time, and dedicating it to your hobby is meaningfully different than just paying money to do it. Okay, yes, time is money, and in a business sense, that makes sense, but this is supposed to be a hobby, and you're not supposed to be able to buy your way to success in a hobby. I don't even see what the point of playing would be in that respect. If to take a more real world example, let's say that you like to do karate or some kind of martial arts, and you start at white belt and you can just buy a black belt. You know, does that now you can say that you're a black belt in karate, but does that actually mean anything? Have you actually got anything out of that experience? You know, okay, you bought your black belt, but so what? You know, you've accomplished nothing. Even though to an outsider it might appear that your achievements are exactly the same as any other black belts. You know, in reality, you don't know shit. You just bought it. And how can, apart from what anyone else thinks, how can you personally think that that's good? What do you get out of that? You know, you haven't learned anything. You haven't accomplished anything. You can just tell other people that you have. It wouldn't give me any personal satisfaction. I think some people feel differently and they think it's okay, but I think the majority opinion is with me there. You've accomplished nothing if you buy your way to success. I think that's the same thing with WoW. It is a hobby. You know, it's something that you do. You set yourself goals in WoW, and you work to achieve them. And that really is the point of the game. It's a social game, and you work with other people to achieve your goals. You know, it's really a barrier to that, to introduce elements of the game that you can accomplish just by paying. Or to put it another way, you can accomplish it by not playing the game. You can do something outside of the game and that benefits you in the game, without having to actually go into the game and achieve it yourself. You know, that undermines the hobby somewhat. I think it's bad in that respect. But it seems that the majority dissenting opinion is against me. Exactly the opposite of that, which is, if I do it, how is it bad for you? You know, isn't it just jealousy that I have money and I can spend my way to getting extra stuff? you know, aren't you just? I guess I can see that from superficial point of view. If you just listen to what I said and said, well, what you do makes my achievements feel less meaningful, or I think they undermine my achievements. Isn't that just you being selfish or jealous of me? You know, how does it affect you? You should just leave me alone. Which is such a weird argument. It just doesn't apply here. You know, for some things that argument applies, but in this case it doesn't apply. WoW is an MMO. It's a social game, and what you do in the game with other people affects other people, and your attitude towards the game and how you treat it affects the gameplay experiences of other people as well. And more importantly, there's this issue of peer pressure that I discussed earlier. If your guild needs you to pay for if they need you more DPS in some way, and there's a way, they introduce a way in the game in the future to increase your DPS for money, there's this peer pressure to pay for it even though you might not be able to afford it. Okay, so that's something that we could worry about down the line. But as for this idea that, okay, you can add this, you can make this level 90 and it doesn't affect anyone else. Well, yeah, this is any time I play with somebody who's made a level 90 and is just paid for it, that affects my game. If I play against people in PvP, it directly affects me. If a class becomes overpowered, the only thing that stops everybody from playing that class is the time it takes to level it up to level 90. Most people don't have every class at level 90. So you just play what character you've got, and if somebody's overpowered, they're overpowered for a period of time, and then they get nerfed. I think warriors are a good example of this. Massively overpowered this expansion, but when they became overpowered, there were more warriors, but not every single person was a warrior. You couldn't just buy a new character. In this case, you will be able to. You'll be able to buy a significant advantage if another class, let's say paladins, rep paladins, become OP by some accident. You can literally just spend 25 quid and be a rep paladin. So if you like your own character, you're suddenly going to be hitting this brick wall in battlegrounds and arenas and whatever it is you do in PvP, where everybody you face is a paladin, and they have balancing issues, so they're stronger than you. What are you going to do? Your gameplay experience is degraded there. And I think even in a cooperative situation, that sucks. So let's say you join a dungeon, and rep paladins are overpowered, and they're doing like 50% more DPS than you, 150% of your DPS. That's in the same gear. We're assuming the same item level here in both circumstances. So on the one hand, you can say, yeah, that's good. That helps me. It doesn't matter that he has more TBS than me because it's beneficial for the dungeon, right? It helps me. But on the flip side, if somebody wants to progress in a raid and they're hitting a DPS wall, it's beneficial for the raid leader and everybody else in the raid if they just boot you and get a new rep paladin. And that's the thing that prevented that from being the case before, is exactly this barrier to stop people from rerolling. You can't just say to somebody who you already know is a good player and you already trust, okay, go away and roll a rep paladin. If you needed one before, you have to advertise for new players, make sure that they're trustworthy, somebody already has a rep paladin who has leveled it up, and invite them to the guild, trial them out. There's a lot of effort there. If you just remove that, then people will be rerolling, and that, if I don't want to play rep paladin, I'm in trouble. My character sucks, and it will be difficult to play that character in a social situation. So what do you do? Well, you've really got two options there. You can make your own guild. Well, you've got a few options. You could make your own guild with blackjack and hookers and and whatnot, and just invite all the loser classes so you can't get into the better raids, right? Okay, that's fine. That would work. That's great, good for you, if you can do that. But if you want to stay with your guild, then you either get benched, so you just wait around for a free spot, or you pay money to re-roll to a rep paladin. So again, there's this peer pressure issue that comes up, even in PvE. I think that if that scenario could happen, you would feel pressured to buy these upgrades and pay for your advantages. And really, what I was talking about there earlier about the raid system, that assumes that you're playing with people who know how to play the class, who actually put the time and effort in to do the reroll, learn the class, all that stuff. With this free level 90 stuff, we are going to start seeing some major issues in queued group content, so LFD and LFR content. What the hell is going to happen there? I mean, you can remember, maybe anybody who has played since Wrath of the Lich King remembers this the Death Knight spree that happened at the start there, where loads of people wanted to try out tanking or whatever it was, but they just couldn't be bothered to level up a new guy. And so suddenly you get a new guy, he's 55, and you have this tutorial. It's what, 2 or 3 hours, maybe 2 hours tops, probably less than that, probably an hour and a bit, and you supposedly get taught how to play the Death Knight class, but that doesn't teach you anything. It doesn't teach you the importance of what you need to learn for tanking. So you get dropped into Shattered Halls, and this is before they rebalance that content, so it's much easier, and rebalance threat so that you generate more threat, and you just don't know how to. Not only don't know how your Death Knight really works, but you just have no idea how to tank at all, maybe. And this just pissed people off for no end. I still remember the ranting, and people were saying that between level 58 and 65 or so, you just can't queue for dungeons because you just get this new Death Knight tank who just wants a quick queue, queues up as a tank, doesn't know what to do, and he just kind of fails at it, and the group wipes, or it just goes really slowly, or rogues end up tanking things. It's just a ball ache for everyone involved. We really want to avoid that happening again, and it's going to. I don't see how you're going to prevent people from going, I want to try this character, I want to try a monk, Brewmaster Monk, advance the character to 90, and that is not a straightforward character to use for tanking or anything. It has this active mitigation system that's more complicated than just thwacking a mob like in warrior tanking. You just whack it. There's significant complexity there. You need to look it up, you need to read the talents, and suddenly you're dropped into the game and you've got about 20 or 25 abilities that you need to manage, and stuff like shuffle, you don't know how it works, but without it you're just going to get squished. So unless they make those beginning dungeons ridiculously, absurdly easy, you're not going to have the space and time, you're not going to have the opportunity really to learn your character in an appropriate setting. You can't just get dumped into a dungeon of moderate difficulty without knowing how to play. You need these intro levels to teach you. So that's going to be a problem for even people who have played the game before. If they haven't played a particular class, they're going to have these issues in grouped content. Let alone somebody who's just started the game. They don't know what to do. They go through the tutorial for 3 hours, and as I understand, there's going to be a tutorial on Warlords of Draenor when you level up, or when you auto level your character. You go through the Brewmaster Monk tutorial and you don't know shit. You haven't set up your keybinds. You don't really know anything about how the game works. You don't have any add-ons or anything. You queue for a tank because that's what you think you need to do. Kapow! You can't do your job. There's no way. So yeah, it affects me and it affects the game in one way or another. I guess the two ways that they could combat this are both pretty bad. One thing that they could do, and I knowing Blizzard, I'm pretty sure that this is exactly what they're going to do, is that they'll make the 2 intro dungeons for the new expansion just these ridiculous cakewalks where mobs die really easily with low DPS and they don't hit very hard on your tank. The kind of thing that you could go through with your healer having queued, like a shadow priest queued as your healer, that sort of thing, and you can go through it without any significant problem. Okay, fine for the new player, that gives them a chance to catch up. But you know, the fan base, anybody who's been playing previously is going to get bored, and they're going to be annoyed to have to trudge through those levels. You know, it's boring to play at a low difficulty setting where there's no challenge. That is boring for people. And I guess the second way that they could do it would be to simply prevent those people from going into dungeons, or until a certain level. Like, let's say they advance to 90, they can't go into a dungeon, can't queue for a dungeon until level 95. Well, you know, play with your friends, as they say. That's the point of this whole thing. If you're a new player, you advance to level 90, but you still can't do anything because you're too much of a noob. How is that any different from just leveling the character up from scratch? Apart from the time taken. I mean, it's not different. It's not different at all. This is just a bad solution, in my opinion. It's going to be bad for the game, and I'm against it from a social point of view. So I think I've explained adequately why I think other people's decisions affect me. It's a social game, not a single player game, and how other people play and what they do does affect me, and it affects other people in the game, and that's meaningful. So thanks for tuning into my channel for my first opinion video thing, whatever this is, whatever people call this nowadays. I guess I want to end up by apologising for the video. I know it's not going to come out that well. It's my first video, but I'm going to do my best with the editing to really try and chop out all the blabbing on that I've done. I've done some umming and erring, and I think I've repeated myself sometimes, and I'm going to try and minimise that in the editing process. But I think it's still going to come out not that good, not as well as Total Biscuit's videos or anything like that. So yeah, I'm sorry you had to sit through it. I'm sorry if the levels are bad, and you know, I'm pretty sure I'm talking kind of slowly. So yeah, just want to apologise for the problems in the video, but hopefully the opinions, you know, affected you in some way, and you felt you got something out of watching the video. So yeah, thanks a lot. I would say this is blah 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 signing out, but I haven't picked a YouTube name yet. I don't know what it's going to be. Either something stupid or something funny. So this is that dude from that channel signing out. Thanks a lot for listening. Bye.